I think you should have the power and of your conviction, and if you don't like what somebody else is saying, you should beat them by the logic of your argument. That's the way it should be.
What Weyman Bennett will come on and say is about racism. Now, I'm completely opposed to racism. It's ridiculous that he even trusts the word. He just screams all these words.
That's Tommy Robinson. Listening to that is Weyman Bennett. Let's find out what he is going to say. He joins me now from Unite Against Fascism. Morning, Weyman.
Hello, morning.
Morning. What are you going to say?
I'm going to say that, that Stephen Yoxley, because that's his real name, is a fraudster. This is a man that has fascism and racism in his DNA. He joined the BNP. He's then launched the EDL, which, even by his own admission, was full of fascist and racist. He's now, third time lucky, joined a German organisation called Pegida, whose leader is famous for dressing up as Hitler. And all the time he pretends that there's no link between fascism and Pegida. He's invited the National Front, BNP people, and racists onto his demonstration. I'm sorry.
If that's the case then, and the charge sheet is as you describe, why are you scared to share a platform with him and say that to his face?
Well, we've been very, very clear about this. As long as Tommy Robinson continues to attack the majority Muslim population in this country in the same way Hitler attacked the Jews, we say that we won't work with people that refuse to respect.
He's not asking you to work with him. Why won't you debate with him?
Because we think by debating with him that it gives him the credibility that what he's presenting is a rational answer to very serious problems that exist inside Europe and this country.
How's he attacking them? How's he attacking them like Hitler attacked the Jews?
Because if you listen to what he just said, he's used buzzwords himself: rapist, criminals, terrorists, right? In terms of
there are rapists, terrorism, and criminals amongst the Islamic and the Islamist community, both here and indeed. Let me finish, Weyman. That is true also in Cologne. Yes.
Well, that's true.
Sweden, Denmark.
No. But can we be clear? Tommy Robinson also said that he thought that Breivik, who killed 77 people, the biggest terrorist attack in Europe on the European Parliament, was carried out by a right-wing supporter, a Nazi supporter of the EDL, who took inspiration from Tommy Robinson.
Yeah, he didn't say that. That's what Breivik said about him.
No. Actually, in The Independent, Tommy Robinson said that Breivik was pretty smart. Right, so let's be clear.
What was the context of that? Because a moment ago, you also said that he's invited the NF and the BNP, but when he was on here, he clearly said to me he has not invited the BNP or the NF. In fact, he's told them to stay away. Likewise, he doesn't want people to turn up who are drunk. He doesn't also want people to turn up who are covering their faces. So let's just make sure that when we are attacking each other, that we are stating facts. Because what you said is incorrect. Weyman. He has not invited the NF or the BNP.
Can I ask you, have a look at his website and Facebook and see who's been invited on there? Because what you'll find is a string of people that are connected to the far right and fascism in this country. Now, what we believe is
has he invited them to the demonstration? I am saying you made a statement that he had invited them. Let me finish. I said, no, he hasn't, because I heard him interviewed on Radio 5, I've heard him on Radio 4, I've seen the article in the paper, and I asked him directly to his face today, and he told me they are not welcome. You came on straight away and said he's done that. Are you now retracting that comment?
I refuse to retract that, and I'll tell you why. Because he's a notorious liar. He's always said that his demonstrations were peaceful, and their intention was to, in other words, to target particular groups of people. The history speaks for himself. Since 2010,
so you don't know whether or not he has invited them. Your accusation is purely an accusation, because I've stated some facts to you, and you say, but he's a liar. That isn't the same as saying, as you did say at the beginning, Weyman. I'm just trying to be fair to both of you. You said, and I can play it back to you if you want, he has invited the BNP and the NF. That's not factually correct, is it?
No, I said, what? Can I be clear, right? Hitler, right, lied to people in public and then went and did something else as well. And I'm saying the problem with
that is
fascist
still
racism,
different to what you initially said. Your initial statement was he has invited the BNP and the NF to thing on Saturday. That is different to what you're now saying. You're now saying you can't trust him because he's a liar and he's Hitler. Make your mind up.
No, come on, John. He's actually got a track record which involves him being locked up in prison.
He was locked up in prison for violence, you are correct. He's also been locked up for mortgage fraud, correct.
Yeah, and domestic violence, right?
He has not been locked up in prison for what you're saying. See, somebody here is saying, it's lefty word bingo completed, Nazi and Hitler within the first 2 minutes.
Weyman. No. I think, come on, I've given you the facts.
You lied. No, you lied, Weyman. You came on and you presented a statement. You presented a statement.
John,
I am defending free speech and defending. You are saying, pardon?
I'm in favour of free speech.
Well, why? Okay, you're in favour of free speech, but you won't share a platform with your biggest rival. And you come straight on the programme and you say he's invited the NF and the BNP, when clearly, in front of my listeners this morning, and we have it on tape, we can play it back to you if you want, he says that isn't the case. And now you're altering your position. I'd like to move on in the interview. Why don't you just accept that what you said was a bit stupid?
I don't think you can call me a bit stupid.
I didn't call you a bit stupid. I called the statement a bit stupid because you said he has invited the BNP and the NF.
Can we agree that it's a gross generalisation that in a city, to be honest, which the majority of Muslims tend to come from Pakistan or Yemen, right, that a demonstration is called in usually very highly in ethnic areas which large numbers of what I call brown or black people.
He's not doing it in an ethnic area.
He's not been allowed to do it. He originally wanted to do it. The police prevented him from doing it.
That is not what the police are telling me. I've got their statement. I know Birmingham really well. I've lived there for 5 years.
Look,
I live just on the outskirts. He's now doing it at the National Exhibition Centre because he says he doesn't want to march through areas. He doesn't want to cause trouble. He wants to just have a silent protest. Why do you want to stop him even having a silent protest? You said you believe in free speech.
I tell you why.
Is he not allowed free speech?
Can I just finish? You've asked me a question, right? Pegida have called 2 demonstrations, one in Newcastle and one inside Scotland. Right? So the organisation isn't just brand new. It has a track record. Both the demonstration called in Edinburgh was full of people that were what I describe as coming from fascist organisations. A small turnout, 4 people, I think, in the end turned out. And also the one in Newcastle, were known faces from the National Front, from the BNP.
We're now talking about the one that he's organising in Birmingham. He's not organising it in an area like Spark Hill or Spark Brook. He's doing it outside of Birmingham. He is saying that he won't... See, why do you want to spread lies? Let's just take a step back. Is he allowed freedom of speech? Is he allowed to say that he's worried about the Islamification of Britain? Is he allowed to say that?
I think it's true that he's allowed to say, as some fascists do, that they're worried about Islam or Jewish people. They're allowed to say these things, yeah?
It's not mentioned Jewish people. Let's keep it on what he's talking about. See, because that's bingo. That's the third one we thought you'd come up with. Jews, Hitler. When are you going to mention concentration camps?
Because it's no longer respectable for fascists, or as they call themselves, it's no longer respectable for fascists to openly attack the Jewish community.
Jews
because people
aren't attacking the British people. Islamists are. He's talking about Islamists. Don't try and catch me out. Listen to me, because you've just shown what an absolute buffoon you are, because you won't come to the point. Is he allowed to speak?
Stephen Yoxley with a different name, right? I'm saying that he's trying to whip up racism and division in this country.
Really?
You're refusing to address a very key question about the last 20 demonstrations that he's organised inside this country, which has led to a near riot in which a group of racist and fascists tried to attack people because they were in mixed race groups or they looked different. Now, to deny the truth, John, simply because he tells you a pack of lies, I would say what's at stake here is the lack of understanding of why it's important to maintain a cohesive society and stop people who are trying to divide us. I want to live in a society, regardless of your religion, your race, or your sexual orientation, that you will not be attacked by groups of other people who try to organise people to blame you for whatever happens. It is true that we have problems. But can we not scapegoat all Muslims for what happens inside this country? Stephen Yoxley, Tommy Robinson, has a track record with working with the BNP, EDL, and National Front, and it's important to oppose those organisations.
Do you want to take a breath now, because you've been on your soapbox? Does he have a right to freedom of expression and freedom of speech to organise what he says is going to be a peaceful demonstration to say that he is worried about the Islamists in this country and the level of Muslim immigration into the country? Does he have a right to say he wants to halt all Muslim immigration? Does he have the right to say he doesn't want to build any more mosques? So he doesn't have a right to freedom of speech.
No, I said he's got no right to spread lies about the community.
No, that's not a lie.
No, you just asked me, it is a lie.
No,
it is a lie.
Let me ask you the questions again, and can you try and be rational and a little bit less emotional and stop shouting? I'm going to ask you, really rational, maybe when you listen back to this with your therapist, you'll realise you haven't been rational and you've been extremely rude and shouting. Shall I just ask you the questions? Has he got a right to say he wants to ban Muslim immigration? Number one, has he got a right to say that, yes or no?
I think it's ludicrously racist.
He hasn't got a right to say. Has he got a right to say he doesn't want any more mosques built in this country?
No, he hasn't.
Right, so he hasn't got freedom of speech. Because both of those things are not hate. Both of those things, are not hate speech. By the law, he is allowed to say them, but you're saying he hasn't got a right to say them. You want to stop him speaking. Now, you also say he's a fascist and all the... Hang on, let me finish. If you're in a minute you can. In a minute. You've had plenty of time. If you really were convinced about your arguments, one, you'd share a platform and defeat him in rational argument, and two, you would see that it's important that he has his freedom of speech, just like it's important that you have yours, that you're having your rally in the centre of town, he's having his on the outskirts of town. And what you would do is say to the British public, compare me, compare them, and then decide what choice you want to make. What are you so scared of?
I'm not scared of anything.
Really?
I'll tell you what I'm worried about. I'm worried about that when Hitler said in Mein Kampf that our organisation should have been stopped when we were small, that it was a mistake in Europe that people, because at the moment he's attacking Muslims, he's not attacking Jewish people, because the Nazis changed their tactics. And I think,
why would he be attacking Jewish people? I don't understand why you're bringing that up.
Because I'm saying to you, the NPD in Germany, which was on the Pegida demonstrations, has got links to other organisations like Jobbik, that there's links between these organisations because they have a political programme about what type of society they want to live in, like Hitler and Mussolini did. And they change their politics according to where they are.
Do you really think there's a link between Mussolini, Adolf Hitler and Tommy Robinson? You think there's actually a kind of link?
I actually think politically the tradition they come from is shared, right? Now, it's important to understand these organisations, even when they're small, to make sure they don't become big.
But how do you think you win with the way you're behaving? How do you think you win?
Well, to be honest, I'll tell you how we have won, right? Because we broke up the EDL and we broke up the British National Party. And you do that by good people coming together as they are in Birmingham.
Good people like you. Good people like you.
Not people like me. I'm a tiny minority.
Scream and shout and don't listen and won't debate. You were invited to come on and have equal time with him.
Finish my point,
See, you're doing it again. You're shouting and screaming. You really do need to go to anger management. I used to be like you, but I've actually learned to control my behaviour. You really need to learn how to do it, Weyman, because I'll give you a bit of free media training, which I'd normally charge £1,000 an afternoon for. You need to control yourself when you're in this environment. Otherwise, people say things like this. I find this gentleman more offensive than Tommy Robinson, and I'm not a great fan of Mr. Robinson. Well, that's what Steve J thinks of you, because of your behaviour. Ask Weyman about his arrest for inciting violence. You've got a violent past, haven't you? This person says.
No, actually, no.
Have you been arrested?
I have been arrested.
For what?
I was arrested falsely, right? Because people. It's just not me who said this. The judge said this, right?
All right.
The judge said there's no case to answer.
That's on the record, is it? But what were you arrested for?
I was arrested because there was an EDL demonstration, and I called a counter-demonstration against the EDL.
Well, that wouldn't be why you were arrested. What was the charge? I know how the law works. So there's no charge. There's no charge for that. What were you arrested for?
I was arrested for organising the demonstration.
What was the charge?
The charge was conspiracy to commit violent disorder.
Thank you. So you were arrested for violent disorder?
No, I wasn't. No, conspiracy. Look, John, you've asked me a legal question. Let me explain what it means. It means you were thinking or wanting violent disorder. So you wanted to oppose what the other people wanted to do. You weren't doing it. You were thinking it, right? And the truth of it is, the people that turned up in the demonstration, the majority of us, just turned up and peacefully opposed them. And I think it was a mistake, really, not to understand that the EDL was later on exposed as a type of organisation. Even Tommy Robinson said that they were full of racists and fascists, which means I was right, John, to oppose them. And
ask your guest now, John, if you're so against racism and fascism, why, Weyman, are you not demonstrating down East London against the Sharia-controlled street Muslim gangs? Nigel?
Well, because that is absolutely a fallacy and a lie. I mean,
it's not happening. There's no Muslim street gangs.
No, it was reported on Fox News that in this country.
It's also reported in The Guardian and The Independent. I saw the articles.
I saw the articles as well, John.
So it wasn't just Fox News, was it, Weyman?
Can I just say that there's a deep kind of fear about Muslims, or about where people live and cultural things or whatever it is. But honestly, sometimes that's inspired by discrimination. Sadly to say, racism's not left the 21st century. And sometimes people falsely accuse whole groups of people of things they haven't done. And
so the things that were on lampposts about it being a Sharia area, that didn't happen?
No, there were stickers put up in those areas.
And they weren't put up by Muslims, in your view?
But who took them down?
Well, who put them up?
John.
Who put them up?
I think there are misguided people, small numbers of misguided people. But East London Mosque, which is the biggest place of worship there, condemned it and sent out whole groups of people to take it down, opened up their mosque, including to a transgender woman, to say, look, that this is not something which they will tolerate. And I happened to speak to the director themselves. I think
this man is hysterical, dodges questions and clearly doesn't believe in free speech. It's all lies. Lucy Alice. Tommy Robinson just won the argument. He got his point across on Talk to Me Radio, and he didn't need to share a platform with this other prick. I'm sorry about the language. That's Mr. Magoo.
But, to be honest, look, unfortunately, I'll be honest with you, John, there are people that are racist.
Weyman doesn't fight racism, he bathes in it. Professional race baiter. A need to pay their bills. He's a crank. Not very happy, are they?
I'm very happy. Our organisation was formed by kindergarten transport people who taught me everything I need to know about why you have to stand up.
Weyman doesn't fight
discrimination.
Oh, okay. The interview with Weyman is a perfect example of the left agreeing to freedom of speech only as long as it agrees with their point of view. Seamus in Hampshire. People seem to think that you don't believe in free speech. See, because if you truly believe, because I truly believe in it, which is why you're on, and why Tommy Robinson, but you don't believe in it. Because surely you have to hear everyone's view, even if it's somebody's free speech that you totally disagree with. You know, like me. I can't bear Anjam Chowdhury, but I've had him on the radio loads of times. Because unless he steps over the line and turns it into hate speech, he has a right to express himself. Mesa Gifford, who was fighting against Islamic State, universities were trying to ban him. Jermaine Greer, they were trying to ban her because of her views on transgenderism. It's ludicrous. But you won't allow Tommy Robinson to speak.
The only group of people I am for banning are people that support the politics of Mussolini and Hitler. The rest of the people can speak as long as they like. But I'm not for repeating what happened in the 1930s again, because the democratic structures in our societies were attacked.
Okay, let me ask you,
using the very means that we want to defend ourselves.
Do you not accept, though, that there is a danger that if you don't share a platform... Let me finish. If you don't share a platform, or if you don't take these people on in rational, unemotional debate, that actually these conversations go underground and racism and fascism, as you would describe it, breeds uncontrollably? Would you not accept that the failure of mainstream European politicians right across our great continent has now led to the situation we've got, where people feel that they're not on top of the migrant crisis? It breaks my heart that 360 people have died in the Mediterranean in January alone. We are not addressing the problem, whether you're left or right. Do you not feel that by not talking to people like Tommy Robinson, that but somehow you make it worse?
Well, actually, let's be clear that I never shared a platform with the British National Party, right? And the British National Party has gone into demise and destruction. Whereas where people have shared platforms with the Front National, they've used those platforms actually to recruit and build a bigger organisation, to the point now where they're threatening to stand in the presidential elections, although they share those same types of politics. I think that we have to be very clear about identifying threats to democracy if they are fascist far-right organisations.
Have you ever thought that the National Front in France actually is appealing to a lot of people, and they're appealing to people because their voice is being heard? You're saying, no, what they're saying is so dangerous, their voice mustn't be heard. I find that bizarre.
Look, Hitler did win an enormous amount of votes.
Yes.
He did win the chancellorship, do you mean? I would still say today, if somebody like that came forward, even if they won large numbers of people, that it would be wrong to blame the Jewish community for the 1930s crash. And when many of them were fleeing,
but that is the whole point. Tommy Robinson is not...
That should never have happened.
Tommy Robinson, see, this is where you fall down. Your connection between Hitler and his treatment of the Jews is completely different to the connection between Tommy Robinson... excuse me. One thing is, I'm not naive. Tommy Robinson is talking about Islamists. He's talking about this creed. He's not talking about... He is not talking about a race. He is talking about Islamists. And he's saying he wants to stand up against that and argue it down. That's what he's saying. Now, as it happens, I think his idea of stopping Muslim immigration is stupid. I've said it to his face, right?
Well, at least we agree on that, John.
Yeah.
We agree on that.
But what gives you the right to say what we can hear? Who are you? When were you appointed God? That's the thing I don't understand. Your arrogance is amazing.
No, I think I'm an ordinary person, John.
Really?
What I want to say. Yeah, I do. I think, but I do think that sometimes when you see injustice, I keep going back to it. I'm proud to have stood with the kindergarten transport people who today taught me everything I need to know about this. They basically said, when you see these people organising when they're small, regardless of their target, remember to stand up for them. A man called Henry Guterman from Manchester, who spoke up from that, who helped to form more organisation, said it's important that you stand up against these people early on, because the lesson of history is if you don't stand up against them, they build on people's
stand up and beat them in an argument.
But we do beat... Look, Einstein argued against what Adolf Hitler put forward, right? I don't believe that Einstein was less intelligent than Adolf Hitler, yet he ended up as a refugee inside the United States. And by the way, he ended up as a refugee like many of the people who are floating on our shores now. He ended up a victim of both war and discrimination. Okay. I think that we should respect people.
How many are you expecting to welcome them? What, you'd let them all in, would you?
I think you should welcome look.
What would you do about the jungle then? Would you allow them all in, like Jeremy Corbyn?
Well, it's 4,000. 4,000 people won't make a big difference to this country.
You let that 4,000 in, another 4,000 will come, won't they? Isn't that the argument?
Well, I don't, John. Look, I do expect you to have a bit of a heart, really, because if you
this is always what people like you do. Try and make out that I'm heartless. Go on.
I didn't say that you're heartless. No,
I wouldn't let any of them in. I wouldn't let any of them in. They've all jumped the queue. I'd let them. I think David Cameron's played a blinder by taking them from the refugee camps. But you think you want to let them all in. That's fine. That's your opinion.
No.
It's not my opinion. You're not going to change my opinion.
What I said, John, was that it's important, right, that when people talk about law, civilization, barbarism, international community and stuff like that, that part of maintaining those standards means that you have to do them yourself. It's not about telling other people to do that. And so part of maintaining international law, unless people think they shouldn't do that, and that only applies to other people, is that the Geneva Convention says that you ought to take refugees. Now, the majority of people...
They're not refugees, they're economic migrants, you idiots. Anyway, Weyman, you've had enough time. When's your rally? What time's it at, and how many people are you expecting?
It's at 12 o'clock. We expect hundreds. It's at 12 o'clock in Birmingham City, and everybody's welcome, regardless of religion, race, gender, sexual orientation. Come down and defend Brum and celebrate Brum, because it's a great city and we need to keep it that way.
Good talking to you. Weyman Bennett from Unite Against Fascism.